Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shannon, would you take a roll call, please?
Councilmember Villaseñor.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Diane McCall.
Here.
Mayor Austin.
Here.
Councilmember Edmonds.
Here.
Okay. We'll move on to item number 4, approval agenda. I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's a tie. I'll give it to Lynn. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We're going to move on to item number 5, public comments. We have two public comment speaker cards. The first one is for Carlos Herrera.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. I would like to share why I believe Simone Alex is a good candidate for council member. I joined the city in May of this year, and it turns out that she joined as well a couple of weeks earlier. We live in the same street, and she was so welcoming. You know, I thought actually that she lived here for many years, but that couldn't be the case because that was a new development. So I knew that she was only here for a few weeks as we were. My wife and I moved here recently. And what really struck me was how quickly she introduced me to the community. I met Mr. Pablo, who actually washes our car, and she gave me the telephone number of Mr. Pablo. And Mr. Pablo came and washed our car, and I turned out to know that he lived here for 20 years. He has been in the community for a long time. He introduced us also to the several businesses that are here in a few minutes from here. And I can tell you over and over the stories about how I met people here in the city and how I actually go to their businesses, and I have been able to connect and be in touch. Gardeners, people with the business on restaurants, and a beautiful community. I can tell you that I feel welcome in Fillmore. My wife and I are welcome in this community. We are only months in this community, and we feel that we have been here for a long time. It turns out that Simone has actually shared with us the different activities, and ourselves need to connect more and find the activities more in our phones or something. But the flashes and the different activities here with the contest with the dogs and the trunk activity that is coming up for Halloween, I can go over and over. I'm very proud of the community.
Carlos, you have a minute left.
Thank you. I'm very proud of the community. Thank you for all our public servants here present and to whom you represent. It's nice to see them right there in the streets and in the different activities. And therefore, that's why I wanted to share, and I'm grateful that I have this opportunity to share these different experiences I have with my neighbor, Simone Alex. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Annette Sula.
Good evening, everybody. It's a really sad event that we even have to do this, but I wanted to say that it's really important what we're doing tonight. Fillmore is a city that I've lived in for, I think it's 35 years now. And I love. And I love it because it is a community city. It has community values. People treat each other with respect and love by and large in this community. And it's a very rare and wonderful thing that we have. However, recently I've seen a lot of divisions happening, and it really upsets me. And I think that what I would like to say is, as you are choosing a candidate to fill a seat that's really unfillable, but a seat that needs to be filled anyway, that you would remember that you are servants of the community. It's not what you want, it's not your agendas, it should be the agendas of the people of Fillmore and what they want. And I think the Fillmore people have been pretty vocal most times when, I remember back many years ago when we were the only city that didn't allow commercial marijuana into our city. I mean, we had traditional values, and the other thing I wanted to say is that the idea that we would spend $90,000 on an election when this is something that should be able to be done easily, but I don't know if it will be able to be done easily unless you all consider what is it the people want, not what you want yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon Nagay? Did I say that right? Nye, okay.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of Simone Alex. My name is Sharon, and I am the president of Justice Speaks. It is a nonprofit, and we fight human trafficking. I've actually known Simone for the last 10 years, and she has worked with my organization in a very close way. She is a hard worker. She does everything that needs to be done to help the disenfranchised, and she helps the women and the children to have a voice. So I want to speak on her behalf, and I just want to say that she is a woman of character. She is a woman of strength. She is a hard worker. When she puts her mind to something, she goes after it, and she does not stop till it's done. And she's a loyal friend, and she's a friend of those who have no voice. And just like she has done for my organization, I know she's going to be a great asset to this community, and she will fight for the people in this community. Whatever it is that is placed before her, she will do to the best of her ability. So that is what I would like to say on her behalf tonight.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Diane Sutton.
Comfort zone again. I have to take this off, otherwise I'll pass out because I get too anxious here, and I have to read what I have here. Just some items that do impact all of us based on what the City Council may determine, and some of these items I feel personally, I'm a pretty average person. I'm a homeowner and mother and grandmother, so all I ask is I'm like I said, a homeowner, and some of the items that are coming down mandated by the state is the elimination of single-family dwelling zoning. We're concerned about that. I've been to Europe. I've seen the stack and pack that I see that coming, and we don't want somebody that is their main focus is to just corral everybody into the small town here. Mandating vaccinations for people to enter interior spaces for dining or other activities. They mandate the masks all the time, but we don't want the passports to find their way here in Fillmore. Higher or more regulations for businesses because of the distrust in capitalism. Proclamation of, well, let me pass that one on here. Promoting the construction of homeless shelters along with defunding the police. Those two really don't go hand in hand. Adopting the Chinese social credit score system. My husband wrote these, so I didn't really look at them. So some of these you may question, but I think he's right on. Identify to the state and federal Department of Justice citizens who may be classified as domestic terrorists that protest decisions by the powers that be of the local government and school board. So I just ask that you vet everybody very carefully, and like was said earlier, not somebody that would follow your agenda, but hopefully the majority of the people that live here, and I think you've identified what most of us want and would like in your choice. Thank you for
Thank you.
allowing me to speak.
Don Marone?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to have a quick moment. It's upsetting that we have to take this to this point because last session we discussed having somebody step up who had already been on the council, and there was no able to come together on a decision on that. So my fear today is that we're going to be again in that situation, and given the expense of having an election, that is upsetting. So I hope and pray, and it's, part of the reason you guys wanted to do it this way, or some of the voices wanted to do it, so we could all be part of the democratic system. Well, we as the people aren't even being part of that. You guys are here just to pick from the people who are applying. All our public comments are before and not after, so we're not even weighing in on what each of these people who are applying are. So to me, it just seems like it would have been an easy fix, the idea of having somebody who had already been on the council. But I do urge you all to please somehow find your way to unity tonight and picking the right person that you guys can agree on, so that we don't have to, as a town, spend $90,000 on another election. Just seems like a lot of money we don't need to spend. And that is all I have to say. Have a good evening.
Timothy Glover?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity of speaking tonight. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. I'm a producer, and I guess I'm here to speak for Simone Alex. I'd say in a personal capacity, but also in a professional capacity. I'm a producer. I started my career in the UK, in London, worked in Australia for many years, and have been in Hollywood for the last 6 years, working for 20th Century Fox in the area of scripted television. My relationship with Simone has been both professional and personal. She hosted me and my family to July 6th here in Fillmore for the celebration, which as a foreigner, we're getting to know the wonderful traditions of this country, and she was generous enough to open her home to my family. But professionally, Simone is a high-capacity person. She is a professional in every aspect of the word. She's a visionary. She's a leader. Her character is exemplary. She is someone who I would say upholds true American values, and she is trustworthy, she is honest, and she is just a hard worker in whatever she puts her hand to. We are producing, I have my own production company now. We are producing numerous television shows. We are distributing those shows. She's an executive producer with me, and she is highly valued in the industry and in my team. She loves this country, and I know that for sure.
Timothy, you have a minute left.
And I know that she will serve in this capacity, in this role that she's up for, in the best way she can possibly do that. And so I can only recommend her to the highest level. What else can I say? She would be a highly valued part of this council. Thank you.
Shel Fernandez?
Good evening. I just wanted to talk about, I'm so sorry that you guys have had a recent loss. I'm sure she was friends with all of you. So my heartfelt condolences to that. I am new to Fillmore as well. I've just been here for just over a year, me and my 2 small children and my husband. And we just love Fillmore. We're so grateful to be here and be a part of this community. And when we heard about what happened with Ari and that there was a seat being filled, I guess from what I've heard from so many people is that she was just so kind and amazing. And so in it for the community and not for herself or for whatever she wanted. And I just would hope that we can find someone like that who would want to serve this community for what we need, what the people speak up for, and to just keep Fillmore how Fillmore is. It's truly amazing. So, and also I did hear about the expenditures, like other people said, about having an election, and I really hope that out of all these candidates, you guys can find someone that would fill that seat and honor Ari in that way. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 6A, City Council interview and selection of a new council member to be appointed to fill the vacancy of the City Council. I'd like to welcome everybody and thank everybody for their interest in filling the vacancy. I asked Dave to do this before. Instead of doing it in alphabetical order, I asked Dave and Tiffany and Erica to do a random draw for me. If everybody's okay with that, then I'll just go with that, whatever the random draw was. Okay? I'd like to set a time limit on our questions or the total interview for each candidate. Either we can give them 10 minutes and they can answer as many of the questions as we can go through, or we can combine some of the questions to make it shorter. What I was thinking about doing was allowing them to come in and give them a little time to tell us about themselves, and then we could get into the questions. I'm wondering if that's okay with everybody.
I hate to limit it to 10 minutes. I want to be sure we have, each person has the opportunity to say what they need to say.
Well, we could be here all night.
I agree. I don't want to be here all night either. So could we extend it to a few more minutes?
Could everybody be okay with 15 minutes?
Yeah, I would be okay with that. I do want to give everyone the opportunity to answer all the questions. So I don't know if it's very timed to be like 2 minutes question 1, 2 minutes question 2. But I just didn't want anyone to.
What I was going to do is discuss the questions later, whether we wanted to combine some of them or whatever.
Okay.
So we can decide on the time limit once we get down there. So for the candidates, I'm asking that the 12 chairs out in the dais, outside, that they go sit in those. Turn off your phones. Not yet. I still have to explain. Turn off your phones. Please do not text. Erica will come out and get you, as each one of you is going to interview. And then when you come back in, you can either go back through the front door or you can exit through the back door. No, they can stay. You guys can stay in the audience, of course, if you want to. You can either leave out the back door, the front door, or you can stay in the audience. The audience, I'd like there to be no use of cell phones or texting or recording or streaming of anything, because I don't want the questions that we have up here getting out to the other candidates. I just don't want any of that, happening. We can go to the interview questions now. Do we want to ask all the interview questions, or do we want to combine some of the interview questions?
Mayor, I have a suggestion on a. Oh, go ahead.
Do you want the candidates to leave before this, though, so they don't hear what the
Yes, because I was just going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to combine that. We're not going to read the questions.
Okay.
Okay, so
sure.
we can just answer. We'd like to combine 1 and 2 or whatever. Okay.
Right, we're not reading the question.
We're not reading them.
Right, okay.
And just so everybody knows, each one of us submitted 2 questions to our city attorney, and we haven't seen who submitted what till just now. Since we've been up here.
Mayor, my suggestion is to combine question number 3 and question number 8.
Is everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Okay?
So,
We're just going to ask what the question is, and we're just going to run it on to the next
okay,
question.
So they'll just be together.
Yeah, they'll just be together.
So let's call that question number 3.
Okay?
I would think that question number 4, considering our time constraints, is probably not as critical as some of the other questions, if we could drop that one.
Okay, would it be okay with dropping number 4?
I would be okay with that.
Okay, so can you write these down for me, Diane, because I don't have a pen. Any other combining of questions or condensing of questions?
No, others no.
You're okay, everybody okay with that?
Let's see here.
Okay. So,
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
that's all I see for questions.
so at this point, I request that all the candidates go outside, or I mean, go on to the lobby.
So, Mayor,
Yes.
I do have an extra copy of the questions. You want me to put them and also have to read? Because it might be a lot when we hear it, and not actually have a visual.
Okay, if
So
you
we're doing
can,
it, but whatever you guys think is best.
you guys just want to do the visual, they can have a visual up there on the
Yeah,
on the
no,
dais,
I
mean, on the
think-
speaking.
I think they're going to need it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you already combine them, Tiffany? Okay,
I have a question of
Yes.
of Tiffany.
okay.
So just to confirm, we are down to 6 questions then?
We are
Is that right?
down to, yes,
Okay,
I meant when we combine the one, the.
right. And we got rid of 1 and we combined 2.
So Tiffany, I know that we are required to ask the same questions of every candidate. But if there's something we'd like, let's say a candidate answers the question and we would like to have them say a little bit more about what they have to say, is that okay to do?
Well, I mean, that's up to the full council if they want follow-up
Okay.
questions.
I understand where you're coming from. I think it's really important that, you know, this was the reason for not giving out the questions to begin with. Everybody gets the same opportunity.
Right.
I don't think that we should, personally, I don't think that we should ask follow-up questions at this point. I think we kind of need to
Move ahead.
keep things moving on. Because
Okay.
I don't want to get stuck and then go, oh, okay, well, we've kind of ran out of time and you didn't get to answer the last 2 questions.
Right.
And plus, there'll be an opportunity if you decide, if we end up with 2 or 3 candidates, you can ask them additional questions at that point.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I
I was just
mean?
going to suggest that if we
So
narrow down the candidates.
we can ask additional questions once we get down to the candidates. Now,
Oh, the other thing I'd like to ask is, could we have, well, that's later on, I guess.
what?
More, each one of us, the process that Dave described is we choose 2. I'd like, with this many candidates, I wondered if we could do 3. Each
Well-
one of us do 3.
Well, then we'd have 12 candidates
Yeah, come
potentially.
on, We're right back in the same spot.
No,
So-
no, they'll eliminate the ones that don't have.
What-
We only
what-
have 12
we can't,
candidates,
we can't sit and vote on each candidate. So what I'd like to do is, we pick the candidates we want to nominate, we put them in the final, and then we vote on those candidates.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
I'm just trying to make
Yes.
procedurally. Now, the other comment I wanted to come up with was, who wants to ask what question?
Why don't you just assign us, Mark?
Well, then I'll only get one. Because I don't want to read any,
We're thinking about being mayor.
No, I'm just kidding. It's almost done. Well, we have an odd number of comments now, questions now. How do you guys want to split this up?
It doesn't matter, Mark, just assign.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
assign,
Someone
please.
could-
You have 1 and 2.
Okay.
Okay.
You have 3 and 4. Diane, you have 5, and I have 6. How's that?
It's perfect.
Okay.
Oh, so the new 5 is 4. And
The
this
new
is 5. Yes, got it. I'm on it. Yes, correct. I'm good. Got it. Yes.
So this is, there's no 4. There's
Correct.
this.
5 is
4.
now 4.
Right.
6 is now 5. 7 is now 6.
Yes.
And 8 is combined with 3.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully I get them all right. Okay. Okay. Now, how much time limit do we want to give each candidate?
I mean, I would say we give them 2 minutes a question. That's kind of where we're at. 2 minutes introduction and 2 minutes a question. If they finish early, they
Yeah.
finish early. But that puts us right about the same amount of time that we were already talking about.
Well, that
Okay,
puts us at-
but what I'm going to have to do is they're going to control the timer. So we're going to set up 14 minutes for each one of them. They'll be notified. When will they be notified on the yellow light, Erica? What was that?
We're manually adding the time to the process, the system. And so when they're called to the podium, we're going to start it, and it's going to work the same way how the public comment works.
Okay, so
the
at a
light will
minute,
start at like the minute.
they'll
Yes.
have, the yellow will come on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if they don't get through the questions, they don't get through the questions.
Question, Mayor and
Yes.
Erica, so the timer will only be set once, and they've got their 14 minutes to work down?
Right.
Correct. If
And
I
if
may,
they answer 1 in 5 seconds, then
Okay.
they still get the additional time to
Okay,
answer
so
the
we should
rest.
just let them each know as they introduce them, so you have a total of 14 minutes, we're assigning you 2 minutes for you to talk, and we have 6 questions, we're giving you 2 minutes each question.
that might be a good thing to do for the candidates,
Okay.
just to let them know what their time frame
Right.
is. That way they pace themselves well.
Right, and pace themselves, okay.
Okay. So we're all set. Based on the random draw, the first person is Ron Smith.
May I take the mask off?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's fine.
We gonna set? Okay. So what we're gonna do, Rob, we're gonna work this, Ron, and we're gonna give you 14 minutes, okay? 2 minutes, we have 6 questions. We'll give you 2 minutes a question and 2 minutes introduction. Whatever time, if you end up with extra time at the end, if you answer one of the questions in, let's say, a minute, then you have a minute for the other question. It's just gonna be, and once you get to a minute left, it will turn yellow, okay? You got that?
All right, I'll try to pay attention to that.
Okay. Okay, let's get started then. Go ahead and do a brief introduction of your,
And the questions are right there too.
yeah, and the questions are right there also.
Okay. So you just want a brief introduction, nothing to do with the
Well,
question right now, right?
what we're gonna do is we do a brief introduction. However, if you want to do a minute, you get a minute. You still have 13 minutes to answer the 6 questions. So,
Okay.
however it works out, okay?
Okay.
So,
So most of you already know me. My name is Ronald Smith. Been in the community almost my entire life. Graduated from Fillmore High School, involved with the community in many different ways, and a lot of different organizations. So the community of Fillmore is very important to me. So I just want to do my part and whatever I can do for our community. And that's why I'm here.
okay. Glenn?
The first 2 questions are mine. The first 2 questions are mine.
Okay.
Can you, I'll take my mask off so you can hear the questions better. Can you give us an example of an event or situation where you made a decision or ruling that was made to benefit the greater good, however, may not have aligned with your own personal beliefs and did not benefit yourself or even possibly was to your disadvantage?
As far as like within the community or just
Any situation.
I served on a few different juries where I had to make decisions there that might not have aligned with my own beliefs, but you know, it's based on evidence and stuff like that. So I had to look at the whole picture, not just what my beliefs were, and I had to come up with the best decision based on that.
Okay.
I'm involved with the scouts a lot, and sometimes I got to make decisions that are what's best for our scouts. The decisions that we make are going to affect them the rest of their lives, so we got to make sure that we make the right decisions there.
Thank you. The second question is, if you were appointed with your voting record, will your voting record reflect that you tend to serve only your constituency, or would it prove that you're serving for the greater good of the community?
So that's a good point. I wanted to make sure that people understand that is, regardless of my voting record or what party I'm affiliated with, I'm pretty good about doing what's right or what I think is the best decision. It doesn't really matter as far as what party I'm affiliated with. I'm pretty open to listening to all the facts in something before I make a decision. I'm not the kind of person that's going to make a decision right away without knowing everything that's going on. So, to answer your question, no, I don't see that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, hi, thank you, Ron. I have question number 3. If you were running for office, what would your platform be?
As far as like
what would you want to get accomplished if you were running for the office and you were doing a campaign? What would be your...
The main thing is try to do what the people of Fillmore are wanting. And I know there's a lot of people complain that things should be done differently or they're not happy with it, and you're never going to please everybody in the town, but I would try to do what people want done and what's best for the city. I mean, you got to take both at heart.
Thank you. And question number 4. Along with the background information and guidance that you receive from the city, how do you plan as a newly seated council member to get caught up to speed and learn about the various issues that are currently facing the city?
Well, that's probably going to be a tough one to get caught up to speed, but I guess probably learning from the other council members of what's going on and getting input from the rest of you. I'm new at this. I've never been a council member before, so there's a lot of learning to go through.
You good? Okay. So, Ron, how do you view both the city's role and your role as a newly seated council member regarding community engagement on issues that are, number 1, important to our residents, and number 2, important to our city that residents are informed about? And that question is also in front of you if you want to take a peek and reread that.
Let's make sure I understand it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So you're asking like how am I gonna play a role as for the city and for the community? Like for
Yeah,
both?
how do you interpret that question, and how would you, to the best of your understanding of that question?
Well, I mean, my role would be to listen to what the people had to say and try to work with the people on what they want and listen to the city side by, the leaders of the city here on what's best for the city too, and kind of like make it all work together.
How do you handle working with people or topics which have opposing views to your own?
Well, usually I'm pretty open if somebody's got a different opinion than I do to listening to everything that they have to say. And it's possible that they could change my way of thinking or my view on something. So I don't make up my decisions right off the bat. I listen to everything. And if somebody can, justify their way of thinking, then I don't have a problem changing my views if need be.
Okay, that's our last question. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Right, I told them, I meant, we're just working out the glitches. Next interview is Christopher Hammond.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So how this is going to work is we have 6 questions. We're giving you an allotment of 14 minutes. You can do a brief introduction yourself, and then we'll go through the questions. And if you answer all the questions, you get through them. If you don't, I don't know what I meant. You don't. But it didn't appear from the questions from the last interview that they were really, time consuming.
Okay.
I mean, if you can answer them in 2 minutes each, then you can talk a lot. So with that, we're going to start, give a brief introduction, and then we'll move on to the questions. The questions are on the podium in front of you.
Okay.
Okay?
You guys okay if I pull this down?
Yeah.
Thank you. So my name's Chris Hammond. I'm 35. I was not born here, but I was raised here. My family moved here in 1990. So I attended school here, played football here. I made your guys' seats a living hell for about 4 months as we bombarded every council meeting to get a skate park, 2003 and 2004. Glad to see it was finally built, but my wife and I moved back a few years ago with our 4 kids. We live on the other side of the bridge in Bardsdale. And my daughters, all 3 of them play AYSO soccer here. I work construction, so that's about the gist of it for me.
Okay.
I'm Lynn Edmonds, and my first question, I told I better get closer to the mic here. My first question, I have 2 questions. And the first one is, can you give us an example of an event or situation that you made where you made a decision of ruling that was made to benefit the greater good, however may not have aligned with your own personal beliefs, and did not benefit yourself or even possibly was to your disadvantage? Can you give an example of that?
Unfortunately, I haven't really been in that position yet. I can say for my kids, I make those decisions every day. That's a disadvantage for me, but for the better good of them. But to be completely honest, I've yet to be in that position to make that decision for the greater good. So.
Okay, thank you. The second question, if you were appointed, will your voting record reflect that what you tend to serve only the constituency, or would it prove that you're serving for the greater good of the community?
I'd like to think that it would serve for the greater good of the community.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Hammond. I have the next two questions. If you were running for office, what would your platform be?
For me, biggest reason why I'm here tonight is my kids. Like I said, I grew up here. Sports were an extremely big deal in my life growing up here. I don't see nearly as many opportunities for my kids that I had when I was a child. So I think my biggest platform would be the future of my kids growing up here. Moving forward, sports were always something that kept me out of trouble, along with school activities like auto shop and stuff like that, which I understand we don't have anymore. But my background's in construction, heavy civil, so roadways, buildings, dirt work, stuff like that. I did Pole Creek. I did the Fillmore Middle School landscape, the underground irrigation that I think failed. But I think with my background in that, it would play a big part in being able to help make decisions and go forth, making our town better.
Thank you. Okay, question number 4. Along with the background information and guidance that you receive from the city, how do you plan as a newly seated council member to get caught up to speed and learn about the various issues currently facing the city?
I think I would probably rely a lot on folks that are sitting up there in that chair. Like I said in the beginning, I've never played politics, never held an appointment, nothing. So I am a fast learner, quick teach, so I catch on really fast. I tend to spend a lot of my time dwelling into things that I want to learn at home, reading, whatnot. So I don't think that would ever be an issue for me to catch up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next question is, and it is a long one, so you're welcome to refer to the page there. How do you view both the city's role and your role as a newly seated council member regarding community engagement on issues that are, 1, important to our residents, and 2, important to our cities that residents be informed about?
Not quite sure I fully understand. You guys elaborate that a little bit more.
That was not my question, so I'm not exactly sure how to elaborate on that. So I would say, to the best of your understanding of what that's asking you.
I think I'm not sure if I'm getting this right or wrong, but I think at the end of the day, heard a few folks speak about it. We're here for the greater good of the community. We're put here by the people of the city, the citizens and whatnot. So I think for me, a lot of what they have to say would go into making my decisions as far as anything that goes forth. I don't really know how else to answer that.
Great, thank you. How do you handle working with people or topics which have opposing views to your own?
Well, that's an easy one for me. I work construction, so I hear those every single day. For me, I had a little bit of a 180 in my life about 7 years ago, and part of that was learning how to step back and kind of see both points of view. I still hold that true at work, especially. I'm a foreman, so I oversee a large crew of people, and not everyone agrees on everything. So I think I have a good ability to kind of take both sides into account and then make a decision.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
You're free to go out the door, or you can stay in the audience, or go out the back door, whatever your preference is.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Dave, Diane caught something. Okay. Okay. Next person is Simone Alex. Hello, Simone.
Hi, everyone.
We're going to allot you 14 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. We have 6 questions to go through.
Okay.
But we figured we'd give you a couple minutes to do a brief introduction, and then we'd go into the questions.
Okay.
Once you get to a minute left, the yellow button or the yellow thing will signal. Okay.
Okay, for my introduction?
No.
Or for the questions?
For the you have a minute left.
Okay, I'll watch the yellow button.
Right. Okay. Nobody's gotten close to the yellow button yet. So.
Okay. I might be a yellow button person, I don't know. Okay, hello, City Council members. My name is Simone Alex, and I've lived here for a whole 6 months. I know I may seem like an unusual candidate for City Council after living here for such a short amount of time, but I'd like to share with you a bit about my background and why I'm here tonight. My parents are from California, but I was born and raised in State College, Pennsylvania, as my dad is a professor emeritus at geosciences at Penn State University. My hometown was a unique blend of residents. The majority of the population were families who had lived there for generations, but the university brought in students and faculty from all over the country and the world, so it created a beautiful diversity. I watched as my town navigated between old and new traditions. After my time as a competitive figure skater in my teens, I stepped onto the stage and in front of the camera. My family lived in Switzerland for a period of time, but I eventually moved to California, where I received my degree at UC Davis in sociology. My decision to major in this field of study was in part because of my hometown experience of blended cultures and the fascinating people I met on my travels. I continued acting through college, securing my SAG and AFTRA cards, and upon graduation I moved to Los Angeles, and then my career took me to London, England to train as an actor. I lived in Manhattan on 9/11, and that day changed my life. I thought I would die that day, as many did, and when I did not and I survived, I decided to change the course of my life and started giving back to society. Since 2001, my proudest accomplishment has been my work with teenage girls. I traveled the country as a national speaker, sharing my story to thousands of girls and their mothers about overcoming sexual assault, an eating disorder, and alcoholism. This led to my work at the largest orphanage in Mozambique, Africa, where I taught girls how to work through trauma and build self-esteem. My community outreach continued in Los Angeles, where I worked with an outreach team on Skid Row and taught acting and drama therapy to veterans at the Veterans Hospital in Westwood. I have organized trash cleanups in the city as well as voter registration drives, and I volunteer for Justice Speaks, an anti-human trafficking organization, as Sharon had mentioned. Why am I here today? Just like my hometown, Fillmore is experiencing a merge with old Fillmore residents and new Fillmore residents. I now reside at the Bridges development, which has added close to 1,000 new people to our small city. That is approximately, with the development of the KB condos at the end of Central, that's approximately 10% of our population now. And our new neighborhood is a blend of people who have moved here from all areas of California, in some cases other states. Some work in Hollywood, some work in tech, several are firefighters and teachers. We are a unique blend of new voices for the city, and I'm here to represent them. We all moved here for similar reasons: the quiet, the safety, the fresh air, the lack of traffic, the mom and pop restaurants like La Fondita, Mr. Softy, homecoming parades, harvest festivals, and most of all, the residents. After spending the summer getting to know many in my community, I learned that as a whole, we have the desire to see Fillmore preserve the old while gently merging with the new. Our mission is to keep the best of Fillmore while the state, the country, and the world are changing around us.
My diverse background of living in cities all around the world, as well as my small town upbringing, will add a unique perspective to the City Council. Ultimately, we must make decisions which positively impact our residents, all the while meeting requirements of county and state. With my wide array of community service experience, I'd like to reimagine ways to help our community prosper economically and socially. I know that I am new to this city, but I am passionate and I am committed, and I ask that you take a chance on appointing me for the City Council vacancy.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Lynn Edmonds, and I am going to ask you the first two questions.
Sure.
Can you give us an example of an event or situation where you made a decision or a ruling that was made to the benefit, the greater good, however may not have aligned with your own personal beliefs, and did not benefit yourself or even possibly was to your own disadvantage?
Yes. So I was the sales manager at a large restaurant and hotel in Phoenix, Arizona. And it was a position that I was excited to be in because I love sales. I just love it. I love the drive. I love the people that I get to meet in developing a relationship with sales. And so I was hired and I hit the ground running. And I actually sold, I doubled our income in just a few months for the whole of the previous last year. And we were outgrowing our little restaurant. So we were booking $10,000, $15,000 events every night, and we were outgrowing the restaurant, and it was spilling over into the hotel. And so we, in hotels, there's this little area where everyone sort of goes and sit and they have their coffee in the morning. There was a wine hour at night. And so our events became so large with these companies coming in for their conventions that we had to start spilling over into this area and setting up setting up tables and putting out menus. And so the guests in the hotel were getting sort of, pushed off to the side. And so me being sort of a tiger for sales and loving the people and really wanting to accommodate these people coming across the country, I was forced to say, okay, there's a situation where these people are getting exactly what they want. We're accommodating the large size of their event. We're making all of this money for the hotel and the restaurant, but the guests in the hotel are being compromised. And so I had to make a decision to scale back the events, the restaurant events, to a smaller amount of people, losing the money, unfortunately, that I was hired to gain for the hotel and the restaurant, because we did not want the guests to feel output. We wanted the guests to be part of the hotel, have their space, be able to come in for a drink in the bar. And it did go against my personal beliefs, and I'll tell you why. Because I was hired to do a job. I was hired to make the hotel money. I was hired I was under the director of beverage, and it was his job to manage me to make the money for the restaurant. And so I was in a real pickle. So I had to sort of scale back on my beliefs and my drive and my passion to knock the sales out of the ballpark and really compromise for the best of the hotel.
Okay, thank you. You had quite an introduction, and I worry that you're going to run out of time if you don't shorten your question.
Yes, sure. Or my answer is short.
Yeah. If you were appointed with your voting record, will your voting record reflect if you tend to serve only your constituency, or would it prove that you're serving for the greater good of the community?
Well, obviously, being new, my constituency would be probably the new community of Fillmore. And I believe that there are sort of two separate entities that are merging, as my introduction stated. There are the new residents that are new and sort of assimilating to Fillmore, and then there's the community that has been here for generations. And I believe that there is an intersect. There are almost like two circles coming together, and there's an intersection. And I don't believe that you can make a decision for one and not include the other. You have to sort of land in the intersect. And it ultimately has to be what's best for Fillmore as a whole. That is without a doubt. And coming from a small town that was a blend of old and new, I totally understand that. So no, it would be not one or the other, it would be for the whole community.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello, Simone.
Hi.
I have question number 3 and 4. For question 3, if you were running for office, what would your platform be?
For Fillmore, my platform would be, first and foremost, our economy. We have to, for the businesses in town, for the people who are employed in Fillmore, we have to really seriously take a look at what we can do to help the people of Fillmore and the businesses thrive and survive. And I know that's not always the city council's job, but we need to really look after what's coming into town. I believe that the Film Commission, obviously coming from Hollywood, I believe that we can do so much more. Being in film and TV for 25 years, there is so much to shoot here. And when I tell people in Hollywood that I live in Fillmore, they don't know where it is. So I believe we can sort of, breathe the life into the Film Commission here. We can breathe the life into bringing in. We need to have tourists here. We need people to come here for the harvest festivals. We need to get that information out because just like my friend Tim here tonight, being from Australia, he hasn't experienced a small town 4th of July, and I wanted to bring him out to experience that, and people need to know about that. So that's my platform, really bringing money into Fillmore to cause the economy to thrive.
Okay, thank you. Question number 4. Yeah. Along with the background information and guidance that you receive from the city, how do you plan as a newly seated council member to get caught up to speed and learn about the various issues currently facing the city?
Well, I was already doing that on staying up on Sunday night reading the budget, the 2020 and 21 budget. So I have already started to get up to speed. I am hungry to learn budgets and financials, even the minute bits in the probably 50 pages of the budget. Not always able to digest for me, but when I don't know something, I ask. And I believe in just learning as much as I can, being a sponge. And I'm hungry and I'm passionate. So I will do everything that I can. And I did say in the answers to my questions on my application that I will commit as much time to being a city council member as needed to be an excellent city council member and to represent this city with excellence. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, hi, Simone.
Hi.
How do you view community engagement on issues that are, 1, important to our residents, and 2, important to our city that residents be informed about?
Community engagement is key. We need to know, as someone had mentioned the word before, constituents. We need to know who we're representing. We need to know what issues are important to Fillmore community. I love the public comments section. We can hear what is important. I want to encourage that in a greater way. I'd love to see more people coming out to the city council. It needs to be filled up every other week. And we, as representatives of the people, I strongly feel that we need to know what's important to them, and then we need to rule on what's important to them. So there does need to be an intersection, all the while keeping government and community. I believe in our community we can foster more community groups. We can foster more sort of even, with our new community, some way to merge the new community and the old community. And that's why I said reimagine Fillmore in a new way, to really understand the new people in our community. And I want to understand the people who have been here for generations. So as much as we can do that and bring community together to do that, the better.
Right. How do you handle working with people or topics which have opposing views to your own?
Well, first and foremost, listening is very important. Listening and digesting, and I would say digesting what the other person's saying. I would also say empathy, because we don't all come from the same backgrounds.
You have 1 minute left.
One
sorry.
minute? Okay. Yeah, we don't all come from the same backgrounds. And with my travels around the world and living in other cities and in other cultures, I have been able to experience that. I've had to put myself into other shoes all of the time. And so listening and empathy, and ultimately, again, I'm just going to bring it always back to making the decision. If it's a community, if we're coming together to make a decision, it has to be the best for Fillmore. So.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
You're free to stay in the audience or leave or whatever you'd like to do. Next person is Greg Barbacovi. Okay, you guys are going to just have to jump in. Okay. Anybody know any good jokes? What? What was that? Okay. I was like, what? Hello. Hi. So what we're setting up is we're going to give you 14 minutes. We have 6 questions we want to ask you. You can allot the time however you want to answer the 6 questions.
Can we get her a key to the door?
Is she locked out? And then we gave you enough time to, we're assuming about 2 minutes per question, and we give you 2 minutes as a brief introduction if you'd like. Okay?
Okay. I don't know when the clock starts, but I'm not a professional politician. I'm here because I've lived here for a little over 4 years now. My wife, she runs admissions over at the Ventura County Hospital. We had just purchased a house up in Palmdale, and you can't commute from Palmdale to Ventura. And so I was a good spouse. And most of my business, which was as a mobile entertainer, DJ, announcer, was in Santa Clarita, and so Fillmore was a nice in-between. When you work in front of people, as I've done for much of my life, when you're not working, you like quiet. And that's probably what I love the most about Fillmore. I love the old school town square. I love the fact that the Fillmore High School homecoming parade comes down the main street. I'm not a lifelong resident, but I love everything here except for the fact that if you don't like Mexican food, you've got trouble finding a place to go out to eat. But that's just a personality thing, and I do love Mexican food, so it's not a big problem with me. I don't come here with an agenda, and that's probably the thing that I would like to ask all of you to remember the most about me. I'm not a man of extreme means. I'm not wealthy. As a matter of fact, COVID, as you can imagine, killed my business because my business involves groups of people. My business prior to COVID was hosting events and helping people do things and getting groups motivated to do certain things. And when COVID hit, all of a sudden everything that I did, from fundraising to everything, became illegal. And so I took a big hit right there. But the thing that I would like you to remember most about me is that I'm not coming here with an agenda. It's not my desire to make Fillmore X, Y, and Z, or to make certain things happen. My desire is to do what I'm best at doing, and that's to help achieve consensus. Because the one thing that I've learned by working in front of people is that I'm very good at listening and helping to find common ground so that people can accomplish things. Because if there's one thing that government has not been able to do in the past few years, is to compromise and to find common ground. And I'd like to think that I'm the kind of person who, in our small community anyway, can help to do that. Because like John Mellencamp said, I believe in a small town. I was born in a small town, Duluth, Minnesota. And I love the fact that your high school homecoming parade comes down the main street. And that's the place where I would like to come home at the end of a long day of doing whatever I do, whether it's at Anaheim Stadium or the Coliseum or whatever. Fillmore is the place that I would love to call home. But please remember that I bring no agenda, with one exception. I do believe that freedom of the press is something that's very important. And I'm a subscriber to the Fillmore Gazette. And the only thing that I don't like about the Gazette is that every doggone week there is a mugshot on the front page. And I would like to do whatever I can as far as being a city council person, not to tell them that they can't put a mugshot on the front page, but to help create better stories. Because we are a community, I believe, that is capable of better stories. And I would like to think that I can become a part of that. I'm just an average citizen. Like I said, I'm not wealthy, and I do not plan on running for re-election. I would like to think that after working for a year in public service, I would fulfill my public service needs, because I do like to think that I bleed red, white, and blue. I don't know if you have my resume in front of you, but I've spent the last year and a half working for the County of Ventura for the Elections Division, helping to make sure that things are safe and secure. And even though there was only one election site here at the church during the recall, I hope that all of you felt that the elections have been safe and secure, as opposed to what certain political powers have said. So when I was back in high school,
Mr. Barbacoy, I don't want to interrupt, but I just want to make sure that you don't run out of your time for us to ask the interview questions.
Let me wrap it up then. When I was in high school, I was elected student body president down in Wilmington, California, a community that was 7% white. And the most valuable lesson that I learned in high school was what it feels like to be a minority. And I think that that's something that's very important, and I wish that more, not to be racist, but I wish more white people learned that lesson. Because I recognize that Fillmore is a community that is very diverse. And so I hope that you didn't take my Mexican restaurant comment in the wrong way. That was meant to be in a positive way. So I will shut up, and that's basically where I come from.
Okay, I will be asking your first two questions, number one and number two. Can you give us an example of an event or situation where you made a decision or ruling that was made to benefit the greater good, however, may not have aligned with your own personal beliefs, and did not benefit yourself, or even possibly was to your own disadvantage?
Well, as an announcer of events, which is how I make my living, I constantly have to look for the greater good Because believe me, there's nothing like the feeling of being at Anaheim Stadium and asking 80,000 people to stand up, and they do. And so anytime that I work, I always have to look for the greater good. For an example, for something that went against what I'm going for, I have a tough time answering that because I'm far from perfect, but I would like to believe that as an average citizen, I am always looking for the greater good. And so I'm afraid I can't give you a specific example of that.
Okay.
But the example that I mentioned about frequently being, I mean, I've announced events at the Los Angeles Coliseum, Anaheim Stadium, the Rose Bowl, and any time that you are in that position, just like you folks are here, you are speaking on behalf of the greater good. You don't always have 80,000 or 60,000 people in front of you, but you feel that pressure that I'm talking about. And in my line of work, that kind of goes with it. And I would not be in this line of work for as long as I have been if I did not have a good sense of knowing what to say, and also, just as importantly, what not to say. And I'm sorry if that doesn't completely answer your question, but sometimes you can say more by knowing what not to say.
Well, actually, you also answered number 2 because it was about the greater good, so you've saved yourself some time. And we're moving on to number 3.
I predicted that. No.
Okay. I'll have number 3. That's my question. If you were running for office, what would your platform be?
To listen.
Okay.
That would be my platform.
Okay.
I don't believe that a local city council, I mean, there's a saying, I don't know who said it, if it was Mark Twain or not, but all politics are local. And you can't get much more local than a city of 13,000 like Fillmore. But again, I bring no agenda.
Sure.
What I feel that I can bring, if I were to be sitting in that chair there, is somebody who has an open ear and an open mind. I have lived here for 4 years. I do know that the candy store across the street first opened up about 1.5 years ago, next door to where they are, in a much smaller space, just prior to COVID. They survived it, and thanks to help from the county, they were able to move next door and move into a slightly larger space. I know that we haven't had a dry cleaners here in Ventura for almost the past year because the dry cleaners that was down next to Vaughn's went out of business. I can't tell you the reason why, but I do know that I had to go all the way over the hill to get things done. I am very aware of my local surroundings here, and I care about my local surroundings. And I'm old enough now to where I feel that for the next 12 months, because as I said, I'm not looking to become a political machine here in Fillmore. But I do believe that for the next year, I can become a very good representative of a great balance of what your typical Fillmore citizen is. Not somebody who was born and raised here, but somebody who was attracted to this location and recognizes the positive things here and hopes to improve on whatever negativity there is.
Great, thank you. Question number 4, along with the background information and guidance that you receive from the city, how do you plan as a newly seated council member to get caught up to speed and learn about the various issues currently facing the city?
Well, as a former member of the media, I worked in the magazine business for quite a few years. social media, of course, carries its own problems. But again, I may be the only candidate who brought a copy of the paper here with you. I do believe in the media because the media is one of the things that makes the United States of America different than any other country. We do have a free press. You don't always agree with what's written, but you need to be exposed to it so that you can have the ability to agree or disagree. One of the first things that I would like to do if I were to become a member of the city council is, remember they used to have...
1 minute.
I understand. Remember they used to have the article from the cameraman who was on page number 2 here every single week? I'm very proud to say that when he retired, he published half of the thank you letter that I wrote to him because he did a great job of representing things about this community through his photographs, and I cherished that, and I wanted to let him know that that he was cherished, that he was remembered. And so I hope that tells you something about the fact that I do my own investigations and I do know things about this community, like the candy store and the dry cleaners. And I would be more than willing to spend 3 times as much time doing my homework on those things if I was sitting in that chair.
Great. I don't think we're going to have enough time, correct? Okay.
Time's up.
Time's up. You're free to go out the door, or you can stay in the audience, whatever your preference is.
Is there a decision being made tonight, or?
Yeah, after we go through all 12 candidates.
Thank you very much. I'm
Thank
sorry
you.
if I spoke too long, but I do believe in the things that I said, and I'm passionate to what I do, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Carrie Brody. Hello, Carrie. We're going to allot a total of 14 minutes your whole time. We're going to ask you 6 questions, but before that, we'd like to go ahead and go through a brief introduction, which will take into your 14 minutes. They're running the clock, so they'll give you when the minutes left. You'll get the flashing yellow light.
Okay. Great.
Okay?
Okay.
So
by way of introduction, my name is Carrie Brody, and I'm a 12-year citizen of the city of Fillmore. I jumped into working with the city after my first or second year living here by being appointed to the Film Commission, which was great fun. Soon after that, I want to say 2014, when I decided to run for council. And so I was on council for 4 years at that point. Ran again, and Lynn was, ran against one another, and she did a great job campaigning. She's done a great job on the council, so I think it all worked out. My background, I've been in law enforcement, working for the DA's office for 27 years, just recently retired about 2 years ago. So now I have all this free time. And once I left council, then I was appointed to the Planning Commission, and I've been the chair for the past 2 years on the Planning Commission, which I'm really thoroughly enjoying. So just, I have 3 adult children, living some close by, nearby, and some out of state, but that's pretty much the background, so.
Well, thank you. I'm going to ask the first 2 questions, Carrie.
Sure.
I'm going to put my mask down so you can hear what I have to say. Can you give us an example of an event or situation where you made a decision or ruling that was made to benefit the greater good, however, may not have aligned with your own personal beliefs and did not benefit yourself or even possibly was to your disadvantage?
Something that I did not that I ruled against what I might have normally otherwise.
Right.
Yeah, the one thing that comes to mind is I think it was 2017 when I was on council, and we were dealing with the marijuana issue, and constantly the issue seemed like every agenda there was another marijuana, legalizing medical marijuana that was coming up on the agenda. And even though I had my own personal thoughts on it, and I know there was a good portion of the city that wanted it. It was almost a 50-50, and it ended up being 50-50 almost when it got down to a vote, when it went to the citizens. But ultimately, my personal opinion on that, I ended up voting no on almost everything medical marijuana related, but for different reasons than what I think a lot of people realized. So my whole focus on the marijuana issue was the lack of organization that was coming down from Sacramento. I spent so much time attending conferences locally, at the county level, at the state level. I met one-on-one with Lori Ajax, who was then the director of the, what they then was called the Bureau of Medical Marijuana Regulations. They called it BUMMER for short. They had to change that right away. But anyway, I met with her, and I just came away with a feeling that Sacramento doesn't have their act in order. I mean, I could not anticipate approving it for that reason. I think had Sacramento had all their ducks in a row, I think there would have been a huge benefit to the city of Fillmore. I have a medical condition also that I think I would have benefited. I could have gotten brave enough to do this and switch medication and try the medical marijuana. That would have benefited me. But I still chose no on the whole medical marijuana. I hope that answers your question.
Very much so. Thank you. The second question, if you were appointed with your voting record, will your voting record reflect if you tend to serve only those who voted for you, which would be the constituency, or would it prove that you're serving for the greater good of the community?
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Lynn, because one of my frustrations that I've seen happen over the years is the partisanship that's come into play in what's supposed to be a nonpartisan body. The council, city council, and 3/4 of the city councils across the country are nonpartisan by design, but it's not happening anymore. And I know the first election that I ran, it wasn't an issue, and then the further down the road we get, the more partisan council and municipalities become. And the reason I say that is there's two reasons that there's a benefit to not being partisan at this level. Number one, city council, the primary goal is to provide services to the constituents. There's nothing partisan about that. We should be able to say what's best for the community. And that's what my thinking was while I was on council. It certainly is while I'm on the planning commission. But I just don't see that happening. I see a greater divide. But my mindset is, you weigh something, is it going to benefit the community? Is it not going to benefit the community? And my personal opinion, my persuasion either way shouldn't be a factor.
Thank you.
Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
I have questions 3 and 4. If you were running for office, what would your platform be?
Running, yeah. This is like a mini campaign. I like to think I'm not campaigning. My strength has always been in law enforcement, and even in this day and age, that's kind of almost a partisan issue, which that breaks my heart to see that. But since I spent so many years of my adult life working in law enforcement and working in the prosecution side of things, that's my strong suit. That's what I know the most about. I will continue to work to support our law enforcement and our first responders, including the fire department. And that's a primary issue. And then the other is that I fall back on, I think most of you do a really good job of this, is focusing on what's best for the kids in this community. We need to tie in whatever programs we can develop and get kids involved, especially kids that are kind of falling behind the 8 ball when they get into their high school years. And I think those are the ones we need to grab and get involved. And I think activities and programs, whatever we can do to help in that regard is a huge focus for me.
Great, thank you. And question number 4. Along with the background information and guidance you receive from the city, how do you plan as a newly seated council member to get caught up to speed and learn about the various issues currently facing the city?
Well, I think I have a definite advantage over, I know, the rest of the applicants. I'm getting to know real well back there because there a lot of chatting going on. I'm the only one that has the experience, having been on, I'll even include the Film Commission, City Council, Planning Commission. The fact that I stepped directly from council to the Planning Commission kept me completely in the loop on what's going on within the city. I know all the players, I know the staff, I know what the issues are, and I watch the city council meetings, all the time, and it's something I'm hooked, and it's something that I think I have an advantage of over other applicants. No one has the experience that I have.
Thank you.
So I have the next question, and that is, how do you view community engagement on issues that are, number 1, important to our residents, and number 2, important to the city that the residents be informed about?
Can you repeat the beginning of your question?
You know what? Yeah, I can.
If I had my glasses on, I would read it here. But
Yeah. How do you view community engagement on issues that are important to our residents and important to our city that the residents need to be informed about?
My role is being involved. I certainly believe, even when it comes down to just the events that our fantastic Parks and Rec team put together, being out there, being seen, participating in whatever's going on within the city. I also think it's hugely important to sit on all the committees that we have here locally, as well as the ones that we are required to have a seat at throughout the county, at the county level. And then, bring in the League of California Cities and the different opportunities they have there, and bring all that information back to the community here. And I think that sharing information, especially from the Sacramento level down to the county level, down to the local level, is, I think, the best way to keep the community and the citizens informed and up to date on what's going on.
Thank you.
How do you handle working with people or topics which have opposing views to your own?
You have to listen, and I think I demonstrated that as a council member, for the years that I was on council and the year that I served as mayor, and also on the Planning Commission. You have to listen, and the focus has to go back to, not what I personally want, not what I personally think is right, and it's what's ultimately the best for what I perceive to be the best for the community, for the city itself. And, if I'm at odds with somebody who I believe is probably, or from my perception, is maybe looking at it from their own personal perspective, then I have no problem pointing that out. That we need to, focus on issues that are pertinent to the community, and choose the options, choose the direction that's best for the community, and not what my personal opinion would be.
Great, thank you. You're free to sit in the audience or leave, or whatever your choice.
Okay, I think I'll stay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Janie Munez. Hello, Janie. We're going to allot you 14 minutes. You can do a brief introduction, and then we're going to go through 6 questions. So we're trying to fit it all into 14 minutes. So if you want to make your introduction shorter or longer, just remember you have 6 questions to answer after that. Okay?
And should I take my mask off for clarity?
You can take your mask off
Okay.
if you like.
All right, I'm Janie Munez. I've lived in Fillmore since 1996. I'm a retired teacher. I taught 21 years in Fillmore Unified School District. I'm, especially because of my teaching career, I'm very familiar with a lot of the really great things about Fillmore and some of the things that may not be working for everyone. My husband was born in Fillmore, almost his whole lifetime here. He lived over in Thousand Oaks and Camarillo for a few years in between. My son went to school here, grades K through 12, finished up as valedictorian of his class in the class of 2012. I don't want to live anywhere else but Fillmore. I love it here, and I really, as I'm retired, finding new ways to serve the community. And this is my idea of a good way to do that, and whatever I can do to make things better.
Thank you, Janie. Have you finished? I didn't mean to.
Yeah, I'm done.
I am asking the first 2 questions, and the first one is, can you give us an example of an event or situation where you made a decision or a ruling that was made to benefit the greater good? However, it may not have aligned with your own personal beliefs and did not benefit yourself or even possibly was to your disadvantage.
I'm often very willing to look at what's the greater good, but I have a personal moral code that would make it hard for me to do something that would go against my personal beliefs. So I'm trying to figure out how this would apply. Except that I could think of examples in school where I may not have liked a curriculum decision that was made and didn't think it was in the best interest of all my students, but because the administration had already decided this is what we're going to do, I took that curriculum and did the best I possibly could with it because I knew it was the only shot that those students had to learn to read better. And we did our best with it, and certainly some students made some gains.
Thank you. The second question, if you were appointed with your voting record, will your voting record reflect what you tend to serve only your constituency, or would it prove that you're serving for the greater good of the community?
Okay, I'm not even sure that I would have a specific constituency. I would think that if I were appointed, the whole reason would be to serve the greater good of the community. The things that are great about Fillmore are great for everybody. I don't see a time that I would be voting in the interest of one small group. It's what's going to benefit our citizens.
Thank you.
Okay, hello, Janie. I have questions 3 and 4. If you were running for office, what would your platform be?
My platform would be mostly one of service, that I'm here to do what the city needs. Certainly, we need to improve some things. Every time I drive down CESP in front of the school district offices, I think about how are we budgeting that we can't resurface this road? And that kind of a, I don't know that I would jump up and down about roads specifically, but I would want to say, let's look at our budget and how we're spending our money. Are we spending it on our highest priorities, or would it be better to reevaluate some things, maybe move some numbers around? And I haven't had I probably have access technically, but I have not had the time to go into that and see what could or couldn't be done, but I like to think that something could be done.
All right, question number 4. Along with the background information and guidance you receive from the city, how do you plan as a newly seated council member to get caught up to speed and learn about the various issues currently facing the city?
Well, I'm certainly familiar with a lot of the issues after having lived here for 20 plus years, but I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm very willing to do my homework, read, ask, delve deep. I've been attending or listening to city council meetings, with Channel 10 or coming in person for a long time, and so I'm pretty familiar with a lot of the issues. I'm sure there's a ton of things that I have to learn, but I'm not afraid to do my homework and ask any council members if I have a question, or city manager, whoever I need to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next question is, how do you view community engagement on issues that are, 1, important to our residents, and 2, important to our city that residents are informed about?
That's a good question, because that's one of the things that has been frustrating to me, is seeing how difficult it is to reach our citizens, because there is no one form of communication. We don't have a city radio station. We have the Fillmore Gazette, but it doesn't include all the issues that are important to people. I see most of the communication that the city does being done on Facebook. I mean, Ari Larson was a classic example of putting everything on Facebook so that everybody knew what was going on. I think some of the issues of concern to people, though, miss that venue, and I liked the concept of the community conversations. I think it was kind of limited. I know when I tried to apply for one of them, I was told that it was too late. Sorry about that. And but I think that concept could be good. Maybe it could be done on Zoom and have conversations to inform but as long as it was participation from everybody. We need to hear from people. We need to let people know what's going on. But I think we probably, as a city, don't do enough outreach to find out what everybody cares about. I know that it's difficult also because we are such not completely, but in a lot of ways we've become a bedroom community. A lot of the newer homes, people still work far, far away. Some people are still sending their children to school in the district that they moved from. But as those neighborhoods mature and people get more involved, I think that we will get more involvement there.
Okay, number 6, how do you handle working with people or topics which have opposing views to your own?
That's something that I think I do a pretty good job of. I'm a good listener, and sometimes that's all you can do is just listen. And sometimes my position moves a little bit. Sometimes their position moves a little bit. I try to find common ground with a person. I know I've had discussions with people with very different ideas, and then maybe we move to a slightly different topic. We want to, someone's talking about government overreach. Well, maybe we want to talk about health care instead, and how should government be involved in health care. We might agree, we might disagree. But for the most part, I get along with people. I like people. Generally, people like to talk to me. I'm sure there's some who don't. But I think that by listening and looking for areas of agreement, there's a lot of ground that can be covered.
All right. Thank you. You're free to stay in the audience, or you can leave. Or
Okay, I'll sit down for a few minutes.
Okay. Next is Keefe Staples, Casey. Hello.
Hello.
What we've done is we're going to give you 14 minutes, okay? We have 6 questions to go through, but before that, we're going to give you a 2 minutes or whatever you want to briefly introduce yourself and tell us about yourself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Casey Staples. I run a record store in Thousand Oaks. I've owned it for the last 25 years. I've worked for it for 10 years before that. I do other stuff in music too. I have a studio here, and I have bands that come out and record demos and stuff like that. And I don't charge for these services. I just do it for the fun of it, and because all those young people keep me young. Maybe it's kind of like a vampire sucking energy thing. I don't know, but I really enjoy staying in what's going on and being a part of it and teaching them things that I've learned over the years, and also being able to give them that experience that I couldn't have when I was a kid. I would have loved to have been able to go to like a real studio and record stuff, but I didn't have that opportunity. I had to figure out how to build all that stuff myself. So I've always been interested in what goes on in here. I've never come to a meeting before, but I've always thought that I would like to somehow be involved somewhere, something. Having been in Thousand Oaks and started there, and when I was really young, it was a place like this is now, and now it's not like that anymore. So I just like to see this town somewhat stay the way it is, not turn into another Thousand Oaks particularly. Although I shouldn't complain, because my business is there, my business is really good, and the kids have really great allowances, and that's what keeps me going, and that's what fed my family of 5 kids for all this time. So, anything else?
Yes, actually. We have 6 questions we'll be asking you, and I ask the first 2.
Sure.
Could you give us an example of an event or situation where you made a decision or a ruling that was made to benefit the greater good, but not necessarily aligned with your own personal beliefs, and did not benefit yourself, or even possibly was to your own disadvantage?
That's a tough question.
We started with the difficult ones to start.
It's a complicated mouthful because it's not really something that happens a lot. But I mean, I know, like in my store, having to settle arguments sometimes between different customers has been sort of like that. It wasn't really a decision that I had to make. It was more like trying to get 2 people to stop wanting to kill each other for no good reason whatsoever. I know that really doesn't really answer your question, but no, I've never really been put in that position like that, but I generally try to keep an open mind to different sides of things. There's good answers everywhere.
Thank you. And the second question, if you are appointed, will your voting record reflect that you tend to serve only your constituency, or would it prove that you're serving for the greater good of the community?
I would hope it would be for the greater good. Of course, without knowing what things I would be voting on at this moment, it's hard to, again, answer that question. But again, I would go back to, if it's a good idea, it's a good idea. If it's a bad idea, it's a bad idea.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Hello, Casey.
Hi.
All right, I'll have questions 3 and 4. If you were running for office, what would your platform be?
I used to joke when I used to live in Thousand Oaks and I wanted to get on the city council there, because I used to have a crazy neighbor who was always at the city council trying to do things and taking over a piece of this neighborhood. It's a long story. But I always used to joke, I'm going to run on the platform of, I'm Casey Staples, I want to run for city council. I don't know what I'm doing, so I must be the right man for the job. However, given that, my platform would be trying to, again, be involved in things that are going to keep this place the way it is, sort of like Mayberry, for better or for worse. And I'm sure I could think of better things to say, but I'm nervous. So
All right. Question number 4 is, along with the background information and guidance you receive from the city, how do you plan as a newly seated council member to get caught up to speed and learn about the various issues currently facing the city?
That is a really good question, and that would be a very difficult thing to do. And I think the best thing that you guys should do is probably pick somebody who's come in here who really does have more experience to jump right in.
Thank you. So you can follow this one too if it doesn't make sense. So how do you view community engagement on issues that are, number 1, important to our residents, and number 2, important to our city that residents are informed about?
I'm sorry, what is the question there?
So the question is, it's also in front of you on that page right there. It's question number 5. It says, how do you view community engagement on issues that are 1, important to our residents, and 2, important to our city that residents are informed about?
How do I view them?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That's a good answer.
Fair enough.
Okay.
How do you handle working with people or topics which have opposing views to your own?
Trying to find common ground, trying to find something that is universal, and there's got to be somewhere. Some people are just so polarized that they're going to not try to even engage or listen back, but other people are willing to listen sometimes to what you have to say. And again, that's something that I've had to deal with in my store when I have people that were coming from different political positions sometimes, and I don't expect it to happen in a record store where there's music. You think there'd be a nice neutral environment, but sometimes people just get on each other about things, and I try to break in the middle and explain, no, that's this, or this is that, or he's trying to say this, or maybe this is that. So I've actually been pretty good at that sometimes.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
You can stay in the audience or you can leave, or whatever your choice.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Joshua Overton.
Good evening.
Hello. What we've done is we've allotted you 14 minutes for the total interview. We have 6 questions, but you're free to use the time however you'd like to use it. You can do a little brief introduction and then go into the questions, and the questions are right there on the dais in front of you.
Excellent, thank you.
We're not in the dais, but on the podium.
All right. Okay, well, I'll start by...
You can pull your mask down if you'd like.
As I'm a cancer survivor, so I have to
Okay.
be extra careful.
Okay.
I'll be as clear as I can.
Okay.
My name is Josh Overton. My wife and I moved here from the Central Valley in 1994, lived out in Bardesdale for a couple of years, and moved out to Ventura to be closer to her family for a while. And about 3 years ago, moved back. We just can't stay away. But I've been at the high school as a drama coach for 20 years and as the drama teacher and English teacher for 15 years. Really enjoy it here. And I hope to give back. That's the whole point of doing this.
Josh, if you're reading the questions, we'll ask.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to read them and try to figure them out.
All right.
Okay, are you ready for questions?
I am ready, yes.
Okay, I get the first 2. Can you give us an example of an event or situation where you made a decision or a ruling that was made to benefit the greater good, however, may have not have aligned with your own personal beliefs and did not benefit yourself or even possibly was to your own disadvantage?
My wife and I joke about the fact that teachers have to make about 1 million decisions every day. And we're put in that position often where we have to decide very quickly, and we try to be as fair as possible. But we also know that we have to make decisions that are not going to be popular and sometimes not beneficial to us. Today I had a number of students preparing for a scene in drama, and they had drama. Two of the girls just did not like each other. And they both wanted to break up the group. They wanted to go their own separate way, but I knew that by giving in, that would not benefit either of them or the group that they were in. But I also knew it was going to lead to a lot more drama going forward. So I had to make the decision to keep those two working together and to overcome whatever drama they were experiencing in drama. So yeah, that's, my rule is no drama in the drama room, and so that was what I had to stick with.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The second question, if you were appointed, will your voting record reflect that you tend to serve only your constituency, or would it prove that you're serving for the greater good of the community?
I would hope that it would be for the greater good. I would certainly have to sit and really think carefully about the choices I've made in my voting. For example, Measure V that was up a number of years ago, I was, potentially a beneficiary of that. So that would have benefited the drama program and all of that. But off the top of my head, I can't think of specifics either for or against that. So
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Hi, Joshua.
Hi there.
I have questions 3 and 4. Number 3, if you were running for office, what would your platform be?
Arts and representation. I've really been fortunate to work with the community in many different aspects as a coach at the high school, but also as the president of the Sespe Players. I was also a member for a number of years. I've been able to work with a lot of people artistically and seeing the incredible talents of folks who are also holding down day jobs and looking for opportunities to, encourage a more artistic economy. I think that there's a lot to offer, especially now that there are COVID funds and the ARPA funds a little bit more readily available, and how we can hopefully funnel that into the arts, both for community enjoyment, but also possibly as career opportunities. We live so close to Hollywood. There are so many opportunities there. Why not have those opportunities here? Why don't we have a place to make sets, props? I know that there are a number of facilities here in town that, have artists in residence that many of us didn't know about until recently. But I think we should encourage that more, and that's where I'd like to see that go. Can you ask the question one more time? Was another part?
Oh, sure. It was the question number 3. I haven't done question number 4 yet. Was if you were running for office, what would your platform be?
Okay, arts and representation. As a middle-aged white person, white man, I think that I would not be my first choice, to be honest with you, because I'm a middle-aged white man, and I think to encourage this governing body to represent everyone rather than just the voices that are able to come and speak here. Because I know that 99.9% of the people who have feelings about what happened here in town don't have the opportunity or the means to come up here and voice what it is that they feel. I work in a high school of 82.5% Mexican-American students. And I think that as they become voters, they need to know that they're being represented equally, and we're not being preferential.
All right, thank you. Question number 4. Along with the background information and guidance that you receive from the city, how do you plan as a newly seated council member to get caught up to speed and learn about the various issues currently facing the city?
I've been wondering the same thing myself. I know that there's going to be a learning curve. I know that there's a lot to what it is that you do on sometimes a daily basis. But I would certainly rely heavily on whatever support staff we have here at City Hall, and also speaking with the 4 of you, knowing that you've done this. You've been here a long time, and you have a pretty firm grasp of what's required. But I think, referring back to my prior answer, getting as many different views on all of the subjects as possible. It's going to be a lot. I know that. I know that it's going to require a lot of reading, but also a lot of sitting down and talking with people. And I'm hopeful to do that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there.
Hi.
So your next question is, how do you view community engagement on issues that are, number 1, important to our residents, and number 2, important to our city that residents are informed about?
I'm sorry, I want to make sure I understand the question correctly. How do I view how we handle the communication?
However you interpret the question to be. So okay. How do you view community engagement on issues that are 1, important to our residents, and 2, important to our city that residents are informed about?
Well, communication is key, without a doubt. Knowing that our proceedings would be broadcast on Channel 10, if we can continue that, as well as bring in as many people as possible to witness all of this firsthand. Making this as accessible to as many people as possible is key. And as I mentioned in my prior comment, I don't feel that very many people are aware that this is an opportunity for them. That if things aren't going well for you, you can actually come down and say something, draw some attention to whatever it is that you have an issue with, and hopefully see something done about that. Do we do that to the best of our ability now? Maybe this is what we can do, but maybe we can do more. Maybe we find other ways to bring more people into the decision-making process, to bring us whatever issues that they think we can address.
Okay. How do you handle working with people or topics which have opposing views to your own?
Yes. Being a teacher is difficult because we're given a text and told this is what you're going to teach. And sometimes the subject matter is either outdated or boring or in some cases wrong. And it's a tap dance. It really is a tap dance, trying to figure out a way to address the source material, but also do so in a way that is not incorrect, I guess would be the correct term. Honestly, we don't really handle a whole lot of political issues at the high school level, and I try to avoid that as much as possible because it can be awkward, and it takes us away from the actual learning most of the time. But I've been fortunate that I haven't had a whole lot of opposition to the things that I've had to teach.
Okay. Well, that's your final question.
All right.
You're free to stay in the audience or you can leave.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Stephanie. We're allotting you 14 minutes.
Okay.
You can do a brief introduction, and then we're going to have you answer 6 questions for us. Okay?
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Gonzalez. I've been in Fillmore now for 30 years, my whole life, basically. Right now, I work for a nonprofit that helps support small businesses as a bilingual marketing assistant. And I'm here to help with what I can with the community if I'm elected.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm going to ask the first 2 questions.
Okay.
The first question, can you give us an example of an event or situation where you made a decision or a ruling that was made to benefit the greater good, but it may not have aligned with your own personal beliefs and did not benefit yourself and might even have been against your to your disadvantage?
Okay. So an example I can give for that was, this is dating me a little bit, but in high school, I was running for president, and there was no one running for vice president for the mentor program. And I did not win president, which I was very disappointed with. However, they asked me if I could be vice president and if I would be okay with that. I wasn't very happy about it just because I was so involved with the mentor program and cared for it a lot. But I agreed to become vice president, and then later on that year I became president.
Thank you. The second question, if you were appointed, will your voting record reflect that you tend to serve only the constituency, your constituency, or would it prove that you're serving for the greater good of the community?
I believe that my voting record would reflect the community. I've always cared about this community and wanted what's best, even if it doesn't agree with what my beliefs are, as long as what is best for the community will be what's important for me.
Thank you.
Okay, hello, Stephanie.
Hi.
Hi, I have questions 3 and 4. Question number 3, if you were running for office, what would your platform be?
If I were running for office, I think I would make sure I'd listen to the community and see what needs they needed, and I would use that as my platform to see what needs the community need, so that I can help with what I can, and even if it's to the best of my ability, I'll try my best.
Okay. Question number 4, along with the background information and guidance you receive from the city, how do you plan as a newly seated council member to get caught up to speed and learn about the various issues currently facing the city?
I would learn from my colleagues, and I'd try my best to spend as much time as I can to understand everything. And if I have any questions, I don't hesitate and I ask. So I'm sure I'll try my best to get to speed with everyone else.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, your next question is, how do you view community engagement on issues that are, number one, important to our residents, and number two, important to our city that residents are informed about?
I think that they're very important. Both ones that are important to our city as well as the ones that are important to our community. And I think finding that balance of the importance of which one takes precedence over the other. I think that that making sure that, you know, there's that balance.
Finish with that. The last question is, how do you handle working with people or topics which have opposing views to your own?
I let them talk. I'm used to those types of situations. I've dealt with things like that before as someone that used to work at Starbucks. So I stay calm, let them get whatever they need to go, let go, and then ask them politely to go.
Well, that's your final question. You're free to leave, or you can stay in the audience.
Thank you.
Hello, Albert.
Hey, Mayor, Council.
We're going to allot you 14 minutes. We're asking you 6 questions. You can use the time however you want to. We figured we'd give you 2 minutes or so to give you a brief introduction, and then we do spend 2 minutes each on the 6 questions, or whatever the time ends up.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, my name is Albert Mendez. Been a resident of Fillmore for 12 years. My favorite pastimes, I love running. Most of you probably see me running all over town. I know everybody else does. What I'm passionate about is family. Very passionate about my family. I love them very much. That's what drew us here to Fillmore, is those kind of values, small town family values that Fillmore has. And I'd like to preserve that here. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm put my name in the bucket, for that reason, to try to make an impact to our city, because I like this city, and that's what I want to do. I want to leave my legacy here, and to me, that's Fillmore, small town values. About me, sorry, I started going off. Family, that's big to me. My neighbors, I like the way we all care about one another. That's really big to me. So I think that's about me. That's all I want to say. And so I'm ready for the questions.
Okay, I'm going to ask you first questions.
Okay,
the first two. I have to get them in front of me. Can you give us an example of an event or situation where you made a decision or ruling that was made to benefit the greater good, but it may not have aligned with your own personal beliefs and did not benefit yourself, or even possibly could have been to your disadvantage?
Can you repeat it?
Did you have a situation in your life where you had to make a decision on something, a ruling or a decision, and you knew that it would be better for the community, but it was not according to your belief system, and it might even have been disadvantageous to you?
I want to say, remember a few years back when we were going through that Texaco property and the cleanup and all that? That whole thing, the outcome that happened, and what we proposed, the solar farm and all that, I think that was better for the community, but that's not personally what I wanted. decision. What my likes would have been to just leave the property as it was, cleaned up, of course. And so that was not what I wanted. But I was happy with the decision with the solar farms there because I knew that in the long run that was a better decision for the community.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry. Number 2, if you are appointed, will your voting record reflect that you tend to serve only your constituency, or would it prove that you're serving for the greater good of the community?
I believe it would say that I'm the greater good of the community. I think the community comes first above what I want, because I'm not here to serve myself. I'm here to serve the people and the city of Fillmore. And whatever way that I can do that best, I'll do it. I'll, of course, hear all the voices before I come to a conclusion. And so it's going to be the greater good of the community before myself.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello, Albert.
Hi.
Hi. I'll have questions 3 and 4.
Okay.
Number 3, if you were running for office, what would your platform be?
My platform? I'd want to bring life back into our downtown. That's been something I've been wanting to do and attract more of a more diverse group of businesses there. And I think that's what maybe we hold more city-sponsored events. I know we're doing a lot, but maybe recurring ones that happen more, like once a month, like a farmer's market, something like that, that's going to attract crowds constantly to our downtown. So I think revitalizing or bringing life back into our downtown here, because we have a beautiful downtown, and I'd like to see that revitalized.
Okay, question number 4. Along with the background information and guidance that you receive from the city, how do you plan as a newly seated council member to get caught up to speed and learn about the various issues currently facing the city?
I think talking to you and just picking your brain and seeing what best that, what I can learn from you, or even past members that have served on the council, picking their brain, going back, reviewing maybe old meetings and that are on, served on our archives, and just so I can get caught up to speed, reviewing old agendas, minutes, I think that's what I would do. I would pick people's brains.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so your next question is, how do you view community engagement on issues that are 1, important to our residents, and 2, important to our city that residents are informed about?
How do I view them? I think we need to do a better job as a group of putting more information out there. I don't know. Because I think some people think they may be informed and know everything, but are only seeing things for one way. Maybe we, how do we say it? When you go back, when you're in college and you write in a paper and you do your thesis, then you tell them what your thesis is about, and then you tell them again. I think that's what we got to do is when we're giving that information. It's kind of like writing an essay. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. Give them that information. Then I'm going to tell you about it, and I'm going to tell you about it in a different way. Maybe because we have to address how people learn. Maybe some people are visual learners, or they do, they learn by doing, and we got to do that. Give them the information, but in different ways. I think I answered the question.
I think you did. Yeah. Thank you.
And your last question is, how do you handle working with people or topics which have opposing views to your own?
I put my views aside, or at least I do want to say I do. It's because all our views are important, and you don't want to polarize somebody by making them feel like their views don't matter, because everybody's views matter. And I could learn from somebody else's view. And that's how I see it. It's like, oh, that's an interesting view. I never thought about it that way, and it makes me grow as an individual, and I think it'll make the whole community grow by seeing other people's views. learning from their views and applying that, because I'm a lifelong learner. I never stop learning. I mean, I learn from you guys, I learn from my wife, I learn from my grandkids every day. So I think seeing their views and learning from their views, even though I may not agree with their views, but there might be a little bit of good or a little bit of knowledge I'm going to gain from looking at their views. I'm not going to put their views down, but I'll think about their views and maybe mesh them with mine, and maybe I got a new goal. Now I see, wow, the light bulb went off. I see it this way now. Maybe not exactly the way you wanted me to see your views, but now I see it in a different light.
Okay. Well, thank you. You're free to stay in the audience or go back out.
Mayor, I like your mask.
Thanks. Hello, Christopher.
Hello.
We're allotting 14 minutes for the total interview. We have 6 questions. You can do a brief introduction and then use the rest of the time to answer the questions.
Okay.
Okay.
So my name is Chris Rolla. I am a lifetime resident of Fillmore, although I have not necessarily lived in Fillmore over the most recent 15 years due to military service. I'm currently on active duty at Edwards Air Force Base, and my active duty commitment is going to expire or terminate on 1 December. So any of these views today are my own views. They don't represent the Air Force or the Department of Defense. I've always considered how I can get involved back in the community, and I started small involvement with St. Francis of Assisi, the church, and I really have found a really great group of people that I never knew when I lived here, not necessarily, but they've all kind of connected. We all know that, even just waiting outside, all the connections of Fillmore. And I really do think that in a lot of ways I've represented that across my entire lifetime, but especially even in my time away from Fillmore, always coming back, seeking ways to find our home here in Fillmore to raise our family. I'm married to another Fillmore lifelong resident. We have 4 children, from 10 down to 4, and they absolutely love it here. We keep making new friends, new acquaintances, just people from all around the country now, new people moving in. And I think that's where I definitely bring a unique perspective, almost as now an outsider coming back in. That I've had to work with people from all over the country, as well as the world, in my time in service. And it has been a distinct honor and pleasure to be able to do that, and I really enjoy calling Fillmore home, despite my 200-mile-a-day commute. It's an absolute pleasure to be a part of this community and to be able to call myself a lifelong resident of Fillmore. It's very unfortunate that we're all here tonight, but I do think that Fillmore is not necessarily at a crossroads, but at a point that will really kind of determine a good path forward. I think a lot of that has to do with values and what we as a city choose to represent. It's not uncommon for things in Fillmore to go completely unnoticed because people don't usually get bothered by differing opinions of others, but in a heightened political kind of world we live in, I think that's important to have strong leadership that helps lower the temperature of everything going on around them. And I do believe that my past 16 years of service, being very apolitical, not by my own desire at first, but definitely by natural kind of leadership and necessity to become and maintain an apolitical tone throughout all discussions, brings people together. And I really think that my lifetime of service up to this point has truly been defined by that.
So, Chris, I'm going to be asking 2 questions. My first question is, can you give us an example of an event or situation where you made a decision or ruling that was made to benefit the greater good? However, it may not have aligned with your belief system and did not benefit yourself, or even possibly it was to your disadvantage.
Yeah, I think I've had to make tough decisions regarding those that have worked for me in the uniform and out of the uniform. And sometimes there's difficult decisions that you make based on people's behaviors, so having strong standards. And when people violate those standards, you have to make a determination about whether or not that person is fit to serve or just good for the organization as a whole. Now that's a bit of an extreme example, but the way it affected me negatively more recently was we had to separate somebody who was not representing the organization well, but at a cost to us because we were short-manned already. And so it put an extra burden on our people to be able to get the mission done and to be able to continue operating. And this was during COVID. And so we were already very short-manned, had alternating shifts that just made everything more difficult. But we found a way by upholding the standard, and I think people appreciated that standard being upheld, and it helped motivate them to do their jobs even better. So it came at some cost, especially initially, when people knew that it was somebody who was actually leading a shift would be gone, and we'd have to ask somebody to step up and take care of the team.
Thank you. The second question is, if you were appointed, will your voting record reflect that you tend to serve only your constituency, or would it prove that you're serving for the greater good of the community?
My voting record specifically, I would have a hard time looking at that because I tend to vote and move on. So I'm not really concerned about whether or not something that I pushed for was the chosen course of action, whether that be in a local election or even just decisions in the organization that I've been in. So I do definitely serve the greater good and look at ways that even if my choice or my selection was not the path forward, how do I make that work to the benefit of what the goal, right? The end goal, I think, is the ultimate thing, not just the path that we take, but what's the end goal. And that's where I kind of come back to values. What is the path that we set forward, but most importantly, what is the end goal? What are our values and what are we trying to achieve?
Thank you.
All right. Hello, Chris.
Hi.
Hi, I have questions 3 and 4. Number 3, if you were running for office, what would your platform be?
If I were running for office, I think my platform would be, especially for the city of Fillmore, would be where residents, where the people of Fillmore plant and grow. Okay, so we establish a foundation, something that we believe in as a community, and that we can all come together on, and where we have the sights of we can stay a small town but continue to grow. We have that mentality of hard work and determination that help everyone who starts on a level playing field have an equal opportunity to succeed not only in life, but ultimately in whatever goals they set up personally as well. whether that be a spiritual goal, a financial goal, you name it. We've all had the opportunity to not necessarily self-determine, but to seek and find that which it is we desire, and hopefully can help support each other do that as a community.
Thank you. Question number 4. Along with the background information and guidance you receive from the city, how do you plan as a newly seated council member to get caught up to speed and learn about the various issues currently facing the city?
Okay, I've already started reviewing all the meetings since just before and after Ari was elected and sworn into office. There are a few of them that I wasn't able to because of either audio or video issues on the Granicus system. It's also allowed me to peer a little bit more into the Planning Commission, but I would actually also ask the questions of specifically which outside committees Ari was a part of, because I would have planned to step into those right away as well. There are a few of them that I noted, but there are probably some that either weren't very immediately clear or anything like that. But yeah, using that system and then utilizing the connections they already have, but then also with the members of the council to find out where we're at and chart a path forward. And those records, video records, go all the way back till 2015. I don't know how far back I would have to go, not necessarily just throw my own opinion at it.
All right, thank you.
So your next question is, how do you view community engagement on issues that are, 1, important to our residents, and 2, important to our city that residents are informed about?
Okay. So I think that kind of gauging the poll, or taking a pulse of the public, I think is important. I think that the city owes its constituents a more formal mode of communication outside of social media streams, whether it be any registered emails or mailers. In particular, I know the water bill is a commonly used source of getting information out. But I do think that's important, but ultimately it's up to the council to either have the courage or even just be able to just draw the line and say, okay, this is what I know. This is a path forward that I know that people would expect me to take as an elected official, and then move forward with that and then communicate to the community the action that was taken, whether it be something that a particular constituency wanted or didn't want, help them understand how it benefits the community.
And your final question, how do you handle working with people or topics which have opposing views to your own?
I would say just first, get to know somebody on a personal level before you start talking about everything else going on. It was pretty awesome actually just seeing outside, waiting, everyone to start talking about their life, getting to know each other. Some people knew each other, but didn't realize that they were running for city council. So bridging that gap, making sure people understand that the human speaking to a human, and let's figure out then what the issues are. One way in which it's good, not necessarily something that I would immediately endorse, is just getting people together for a drink to say, hey, let's hang out and then let's talk. Because I think the more and more that we start to look at each other as an issue or a vote, then we start to forget about the face, especially behind the mask, right? These don't help. So I definitely think that's the best way to do it, is get to know somebody, get to know your neighbor, so that way when the first thing that you see, when something doesn't go your way or somebody votes against or votes for something that you don't want, you still remember the person on the other side that you were just drinking with the other night.
Right. You can either sit in the audience or you can
Okay.
leave or?
If you wouldn't mind, I have one thing for the council to consider. My active duty service ends December 1st, so I do have a bit of a gap of 15 days approximately that I would not be able to swear in, and I know that the 16th of November was a date that hadn't been set. I don't know if that's when a decision has to be made versus a swearing in, but I appreciate the opportunity, and I would love to hear a legal understanding of what that might look like. But my legal team has said that I cannot swear in until December 2nd.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Brandy, the luck of the draw had you going last, but
You know, I had a feeling that was going to happen.
we're going to give you 14 minutes. We're going to ask you 6 questions. We're going to leave the time up to you. You can do a little introduction and then go into the questions, okay? And
Okay.
we'll ask you the questions, but they're right there in front of you.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Well, my name's Brandy Hollis. I've been in Fillmore for about approximately 10 years. My husband is a native from here, and over the last 10 years, I've been involved in different aspects of the community, a little bit of everything. Once again, I have 6 kids, so just kind of get involved everywhere I can. I think really one of my biggest things is I definitely have a heart to be of service, so I think that's the biggest thing you guys should know about me, so I'm ready to start the questions whenever you are.
Well, I get to ask the first 2.
Okay.
The first question I have, my question number 1, is could you give us an example of an event or situation where you made a decision or a ruling that was made to benefit the greater good, however, may not have aligned with your own personal beliefs, and it may not benefit yourself, and it might even be a disadvantage?
Yeah, can I have a second just to think about it?
You've got 14 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Let's see. One of the things I was able to do over the last several years was be involved with my former company's nonprofit charitable committee. And with that, I definitely had to work with people all over the spectrum. We might have had different political beliefs. We might have had different viewpoints on what was right, what was wrong. And during that, I had to be definitely very open-minded and willing to see things from other perspectives. So I might have had to align myself or involve myself in, say, a nonprofit where I might not have believed everything they stood for, or maybe their beliefs didn't exactly line up with mine, maybe religiously or politically, but for the greater good, where I could see where they were going to help the community. I was willing to put that stuff aside and kind of make those decisions to help the community in general. So that's what I can think of. Is there's definitely been things where it might not have been my first choice, or maybe my choice in general, but could I sit down and look at the greater good and the bigger picture? That's something I think where I might have done something like that. So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Second question. If you were appointed, will your voting record reflect that you tend to serve only your constituency, or would it prove that you're serving for the greater good of the community?
Well, definitely, if you look at my voting record, unfortunately, the last few years, I have had a lot of small children who are recently not at home with me. So my voting record would look like my husband went to vote most of the time. So unfortunately, in the last couple elections, you wouldn't have seen my vote. But prior to that, I definitely think anything I would vote would be for the greater good of the community. I wouldn't see, I don't agree with voting on hard political lines. I think you always have to look at the bigger picture and vote for what's best for the community versus any political party or affiliation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, Brandy.
Hi.
Hi. I have questions 3 and 4.
Okay, great.
Number 3, if you were running for office, what would your platform be?
Okay, well, if I was running for office, definitely, once again, I have it written in big words over here, is to be humble and to be a servant, to have the heart of a servant. So my biggest thing would be serving our community. I think one of the biggest things is Fillmore is an underserved community. I am very impressed with all the people that are here tonight running. You guys have a great choice of candidates. And my biggest platform would be to serve our small community. I think having a voice and having somebody who will actually speak out and, stand up for what they believe in would serve the community. And I think that would be the biggest thing is that I feel like Fillmore has so much potential and it would be to expand Fillmore's potential.
Okay, thank you. Question number 4. Along with the background information and guidance you receive from the city, how do you plan as a newly seated council member to get caught up to speed and learn about the various issues currently facing the city?
All right. Well, obviously, I would, expect to be fully, informed of current issues going on, what has been discussed, obviously, and I tend to follow up with a lot of city issues, come to meetings when I can, be involved where I can. So definitely, I have the unique position currently to not be working, so I do have the ability to give 110% of my time and my energy getting caught up. And once again, the heart of a servant, I really would like to be able to serve my community, and getting caught up would be a first priority.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So your next question is, how do you view community engagement on issues that are 1, important to our residents, and 2, important to our city that residents are informed about?
Well, I think, especially lately, I think the city's role in being more involved in the community with all, the extra activities, engaging the community, I think it's something that I've definitely seen in the last years the city step up on. So I think that is fantastic. I definitely feel that that is something the city is in a newer role with, and I think as my role as a newly appointed council member would to continue that, to be involved in the city as much as I can. I try to as now, just as a citizen, but I believe that takes all of us to do our part, and that includes the cities. So really being out there, I know you guys are out there working with everybody. You show up at community events, and even if I'm not elected as a council member, I will still be at all those events, and I hope everybody else is as well, because it's really important to be involved. I think in our community, it takes everybody. Right. So I have one other note here for myself and talking to you guys, and I've been known to be a hothead in the past, and 2020 and 2021 has taught me a lot about humility. Humility has been a tough lesson this year. at the beginning of this year, I could barely walk. I was in the hospital for some time, and, we were looking at making funeral arrangements versus here. So I fought for my life back, and, part of that is being humble and learning that humility, and maybe having such a loud opposing voice isn't always the best. Maybe that taking the time to stop and really hear what other people have to say and opening my mind to other viewpoints has been really eye-opening. And sometimes, once again, along with the humility is learning to maybe learn to listen a little bit more instead of talking as much. So definitely, but that aside, usually when you're in the community and you're not in that position, you tend to get a little bit more heated. And but in working environments and that sort of thing, people with opposite views, I would hope that we could sit down and have a civilized conversation and look at things from all viewpoints.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Would you guys like to take a break for 5 minutes? 10 minutes? 10 minutes? Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute recess.
All right, thank you.
The council back to order. Okay, now we're going to discuss how we go about voting.
Mayor, hold on one moment, please. What? Dave's going. Because
Are you going to tell Mr. Hammond that he doesn't, not qualified?
Huh?
Are you going to tell Mr. Hammond he's not qualified?
Okay, Mayor, we're good.
okay, we're going to go over the voting procedures. What I think we should go with is what's behind the package for the voting procedures.
You have it, Lynn? Okay. My suggestion, if council members are open to it, is a top three vote. And my reasoning for that is perhaps with a top three, we will get to a candidate with potentially overlap that might be even majority consensus overlap.
Well, I'm fine with that. That's if three or more, we each get to vote twice for three candidates.
Okay.
Isn't that correct, Tiffany?
No, yeah, I think
It
it was
says
two.
each council member shall vote for 2 applicants, and all applicants receiving at least the number of votes, including no votes, shall be eliminated. You're going to have to walk me through this, because this is my first time going through this. Okay. We're talking about this voting procedure right here.
I'm reading this that each of us have 2 votes.
That's what I'm reading too.
Yes,
If there's
that-
3
that's how I'm
candidates, we
reading.
each have 2.
Correct.
We can vote
If
2,
there's-
we
if
can
there's
vote yes on 2
Right.
candidates out
If
of
there's
3.
more than 3 candidates, we each have 2 votes.
Right.
I thought you were saying you want to vote.
No, and if there's 1 or 2 applicants, we each get 1 vote.
Yeah,
So
correct.
with
You
this-
vote for 2 candidates. So example, you could vote for, if you have A, B, C, and D, you can vote for
You'll
candidate
stop
A
us, right, Tiffany?
and candidate C. That'd be your 2 votes. So we add them up afterwards, who all got the votes.
Is the way, I was very impressed with the number of people and the quality of the people that came. And is there any way with that large number, which I was really surprised that we had so many, that we could vote for 3 people and hope for the overlap on that? I think is that what you were saying, Christina?
That's kind of what she's saying, is
Yeah.
we were going to
So
do,
do it 3 instead of 2 the first time.
that's fine.
Does that sound okay?
But
I just hope there's
But
an
we only
overlap.
get to vote for 2 of the applicants out of the 3. Correct, Dave?
At the
No.
second time, when you get down to the 3 applicants, yes. But the first time, if we could vote for 3 people, then the numbers, there might be an overlap that we all felt that one of those candidates was what most of us wanted, and then we would find the 3, and then we vote. We'd narrow it.
Okay, but here's the thing. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but if we pick 3, if my 3rd may not be my first choice.
Mhm.
So I don't know that.
Well, then you
I
wouldn't
don't know
have to
that
vote
that's-
for them the second time. I mean, if everybody, let's say my number 3 is not anybody else's choice, or my number 3 is everyone's choice, then if my number 3 isn't, then that person would be disqualified.
Okay, but here's the
If my
thing.
number 3 is, that's not the one I really wanted, but I also vote for the 2 other.
But we
So-
still have to take it line by line.
Right.
I mean, if we all don't have a consensus on our 3rd, I mean, it just starts getting really muddled at that point, because if we all have number 3 that's the same person, but none of us have 1 and 2 that are the same, that's
Right.
Well,
defeating
the
the
same
whole
is true
purpose.
too. I mean, then, with that reasoning, we perhaps should just have 1 vote.
Well, then
Because then you know for sure that's your first vote.
we might as well only have 2 applicants.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
Should only
So
nominate 2.
So you get 2. You get 2 votes, not 3.
well, if that's what the group wants, then that's what we'll do. Is
I
that
just
what
I just
everyone
think it's
agrees
the
to?
cleanest. It's
So we're going to have, we can vote once for each of the 2 applicants, correct? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure. I don't understand.
the first step is to pick 2 applicants.
Okay.
We then figure out who of the if there's any consensus on that, and then we find the top 2, hopefully, of our votes, and then we each have 1 vote on the last remaining 2.
Okay.
It's a 2-step process. Is that correct, Tiffany? It's a 2-step process.
Yeah, the 2 steps. The question I have for Tiffany is, could the city council members write down their top 2 candidates, deliver those to myself, and then I add them up? That I could
Good
say
idea.
candidate has, top candidate of the votes here is candidate A, candidate C got the 3rd, or they have to say
Okay.
publicly the names, and then go from there.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay. Okay.
So are we to wait for you to tell us?
I'm fine with just saying who my top 2 candidates are. I
So
mean,
am I.
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't have 3. I
That's
don't.
fine with me.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Who wants to start?
Let me
I'll start. I'm not afraid.
Go ahead.
So my top pick is Carrie Brody, and my second pick is Simone.
My top vote's Carrie. My second, I could go with Simone.
That's really interesting because Simone was my top pick and Carrie was my second.
Okay, my top pick was Mr. Albert Mendez, and my second pick was Mr. Overton.
Okay, so they're both out because there are no votes, correct? Correct? Okay, so now we're down to Carrie and Simone.
Well, my top pick then would be Simone.
My top pick would still be Carrie.
I'm going to go with Carrie.
Over the suspense, but I will go with Miss Simone.
Okay, we're at a stalemate, so I'm switching to Simone. Sorry, I love you, Carrie, but I don't want to see this go.
Okay, so do we have to take a roll call vote, Dave? Okay. What? Okay, can somebody make a motion?
All right, I will make a motion for that city council members have selected Simone Alex, new council member.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. I have a motion. I have a second. Can you take a roll call, please?
Councilmember Villaseñor?
Yes.
Councilmember Edmonds?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McCall?
Yes.
And Mayor Austin?
Yes. Okay, so Simone.
But I would really encourage everyone here that cares enough to come and sit through this whole time to please run for office, get involved, say what you want to say. You're a wonderful group of people, so
Yeah,
don't sell yourself short.
I think we had a really good batch of people to interview. I mean, you guys were all great applicants overall. So I guess I have to commend all of you for even sitting up here and going through this process. And with that, I'm going to adjourn our meeting to our next regularly scheduled meeting at 6:30 on Tuesday, November. Is that right, November 9th, or are we on the 16th, Dave?
The 9th.
Okay, on November 9th at City Hall. Meeting adjourned.
Okay, thank you.